Welcome everyone to Spinning Gold 2021-2022 launch series Ways to Arise. This is our third and final lesson in this series. Thank you all for hanging out with me over the past 3 days and for giving me awesome feedback as well. It's been great. I'm so glad that so many of you have enjoyed it. And I look forward to seeing many of you in Spinning Gold. So we have been working with the idea and the challenge of returning to normal post-pandemic. And the ways that in the sacred arts community specifically, we may have resistance or static around that idea. So we worked with the story of the abduction of Persephone. And you can find my retelling of that on my blog, Canto. Then yesterday, we, did a very quick job of pulling some of the core teachings about how one makes an ascent from that story. And so I gave you all a sequence that comes straight out of the story, and the different versions of the story really agree on that sequence, and went into each step in depth. And we ended with some prompts for you to think about. Now today, we are going to talk about magic making, right? So with Spinning Gold and with every course that I teach, there is an inner component and there's an outer component. And if you read anything that I've written about magic, including my book, Making Magic, but any blog post, or you've known me for more than 5 minutes, you know that our inner state and our outer magic are deeply, deeply related to one another. So we do inner work in Spinning Gold and in all of my coursework. And then that allows us to make more effective magic. So we're going to start by looking at this idea of making and marking a promise. Vows and promises are a big deal in the sacred arts. And as usual, we can look to story to discover how important they really are. Fairy tales and folklore are littered with stories about what happens when a promise is made, and also what happens when a promise is made and not kept. And it's never a good thing. Less remarked upon, but also present, is the failure to make a vow or a promise, or to say the right word or answer the riddle at the needed time, and the consequences that come with that. In the abduction of Persephone, the eating of the pomegranate is significant. So much so that the pomegranate is the symbol for the entire story. Now, in the modern cleaned up versions of the story, the eating of the pomegranate matters, of course, because it's a trick. But if we look at the story in terms of ritual and ceremony, then we see that it's describing something more than a trick. And we can see that the eating of the pomegranate is actually a deep ritual that indicates connection and trust and reciprocal nourishment. It is a form of breaking bread. Specifically, Persephone is breaking bread with and coming into right relationship, not just with her shadow self, but with death and with the realms that are concerned with death. And those are in many ways her opposites. Remember that Persephone is a goddess of spring and life and new beginnings, not endings. When we break bread, We are affirming a relationship. We are promising to show up, to be reliable, and to be available. We are making and marking a promise with one ritual act. So now it's your turn. We are collectively and individually emerging from a painful and traumatic time. Now, in the last teaching, I asked you to consider how these experiences have changed you and how in turn they change what you are returning to. I talked about how these things are in a reciprocal relationship and how collectively they change your definition of back to normal. What does that even mean? So now I want you to take your answers from yesterday. And if you haven't done this, then don't worry about it. Pause the video right now, answer those questions, feel into the questions, think about them, right? Heart and mind, we use them both, and answer them as best you can. And then come back to this. So once you have those answers or the beginnings of an answer in place, then sit with those answers and ask yourself what promise you are being asked to make to yourself or to someone else as we collectively ascend out of this time. Maybe you need to make a promise to yourself to not live with such a hectic schedule. Maybe you want to make a promise to your partner to have snuggle time on a daily basis. Maybe you need to make a promise to your creativity, to write that book, dance the dance, or sing the song. I want you to really think about what promises need to be made. And once you have a sense of what that might be, think about how you want to mark that promise. What ritual act is going to seal it for you? Is it eating or is it drinking something? Is it purchasing or discovering a specific talisman? Is it saying a specific prayer? You're going to create a ritual for yourself. So you're going to figure out what the promise is, and then you're going to figure out a little ritual. Doesn't need to be big, doesn't need to be elaborate, that marks that promise and marks your ascent, marks your full ascent out of shadow, out of struggle, at least when it comes to the pandemic, and into the world here and now, a world that is changed just as you are changed, and a world that you have a promise for. And it will take some time for you to do this. So be gentle with yourself. Take as much time as you need. I've given you some suggestions, but these are obviously just jumping off points. And so think about that and let these teachings really percolate for you. Take your time with them. Now, this also marks the official opening of Spinning Gold. And so maybe one of the promises is that you want to deepen your enchanted life. Maybe one of the promises is that you really want magic to be a deep and meaningful part of your life. And so if that is you, then come and join us. Come and join us for Spinning Gold. It is going to be, we have an incredible group of students that are already doing it. Some are alumni, some are first timers. And it is going to be a fantastic year learning how to re-enchant ourselves and re-enchant our world. And if you enjoyed these teachings, this is a tiny taste of what you get in Spinning Gold. So you'll love it, right? If you like this, you're going to love it. Now, if this did not rock your world, then spinning gold may not be for you. And if you're not sure or you're confused, then shoot me an email. I'm friendly, I won't bite, and let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions. And my blessing upon all of you is that in whatever ways and in whatever time is best for you, that you are able to make that full ascent. And you are able not to return to what is normal, but to return to what feels right and nourishing and sustainable for you and your loved ones. And may it be so.